Welcome to the Pulse of Boxing, powered by the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, where boxing history indeed comes to life. And I'm Rob Scott. Listen, September 29th to October 1st is coming up very, very quickly. For those who don't know what those dates mean, it's the seventh annual Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend. And for those who have not been to an Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend, trust me, you've been missing out on the event, the boxing event of the year. But for those who have been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Spread the word because this year is going to be just as great as that has always been. Years past, inductees we've had Don King, we've had Bob Arum, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Roy Jones, we've had Roberto Duran, we've had a who's who of champion after champion after champion walking across that stage. Now this year's going to be no different. The beat goes on this year because we have George Foreman, we have Shannon Briggs, we have Mike Tyson, we have David Tua, we have so many others. But also on top of that, we have confirmed guests where we have Riddick Bowe, we have Roberto Duran, we have um, James Toney, we have Michael Moore. We have a who's who of people that will be here this year and to cap off what is going to be an exciting weekend. But leading into that, this week I have a special guest who is also being inducted this year into the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame 2023. He's one of the best referees around, past, present, and future. Good friend of mine, and a good friend of boxing. I want to introduce everybody to Mr. Benji Esteves. What's going on, my man Benji?
How do you do, Rob? I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me, and thank you for your kind words.
First off, congratulations on your induction to the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame. It's well deserved. Uh, how does it feel being getting that call to be in the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame?
It was surreal, man. I was when I got a call from Ray. I was so happy, Ray McClain. I was so happy, and it was something I never expected, honestly.
Well, you've been in the business for what, over 40 years. That's a long time for anybody to be a part of anything, but you've been in the business for over 40 years. First off, I want to, go down your memory lane and just take us through your trip through your 40 years. How were you introduced to boxing initially?
Well, I have an uncle. His name is Victor Melendez, and he was a professional fighter. And my brother Roberto Esteves used to box in the gloves, and a cousin of mine, Carlos Pacheco, also used to box. So I kind of grew up around the sport.
Um, well, that's your introduction to the sport, but you've shown that you have a lot of love for the sport. When did you fall in love with the sport of boxing?
Well, I think it was when I saw my first professional fight live, and that was at the Felt Forum, and Vito Antuofermo was the main event against Harold Weston Jr., and that was it. I was lit after that.
Well, you've in your 40 years, you've traveled all around the world, and in particular, your home base has been like Jersey, New York, um, and Atlantic City. Give us some of your take on Atlantic City and some of your experiences in Atlantic City.
Oh, Atlantic City, forget it. That's always exciting. I've done some pretty good matches there. I've been fortunate enough to have done some good matches. A few of the Gaddy matches. Um, I was able to do Tarver against Hopkins, Pavlik against Hopkins, and of course, Gaddy, I did him against Gabriel Ruelas. And Castazu, I did his first loss against Vince Phillips. which was also in Atlantic City. So I've had a good history of bouts there in Atlantic City.
Um, Coming up, you once were a student of the game, and you once were a student as far as being an official. And then as the years went on, you became a teacher. There are a bunch of very, very good referees out there right now. Um, who's some of the ones that you think are sort of like how I mentioned to you before? If you want to compare it to like boxers, who do you think is like the boots Ennis of refereeing? Who do you think is going to be like the future of the sport?
They got a bunch of good referees out there. For example, we have Harvey Dock. I might be a little biased towards the Northeastern referees, but we got Eric Daly. Al Huggins is another one who's a very good referee. Ricky Gonzalez. And I'm going to throw in one of my colleagues from the West Coast as well. This young man named Raul Caiz Jr. Uh, he's a very, very good referee, prominent referee, very underrated, as is Alan Huggins. But we got a nice flock of referees there.
Well, all the guys that you've mentioned, I've worked with them at some point in time, and all of them are very, very good referees. Uh, Harvey Dock just recently did the Crawford fight, and that was a big stage for him, and I know that he's destined to be on many, many more big stages. It's funny. I had a conversation with Eddie Cotton. May he rest in peace. Eddie Cotton, he refereed the Lennox Lewis Mike Tyson fight, and from my vantage point, Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson were landing some hellacious shots. That was from at home. He was the third man in the ring. He was right there. So I asked him. I said, "Were those shots as pulverizing, if you will, as much as what it would seem like on TV?" And he told me. He said that they were both landing great, big, big shots. He said, but there was a couple shots that Lennox landed that he was lucky or he was happy that the cameras didn't turn to him because he would have had like a grimace on his face or, like our man Steve Willis, who is a very, very animated referee who gives off these facial expressions. But he said that he would have basically had one of those looks on his face if the camera had caught him. Has there ever been fights that were so violent that you were like, oh wow, being the third man in? Because basically, like I said, you were that third man. You were there. You see it way better than anybody on watching on TV, and even everybody at ringside. You are that man. What fights stand out to you when you were like, oh my god?
I had a few of them. I'll just point out one in particular when Arturo Gatti fought Joey Gamache at the Madison Square Garden. Um,
Oh, you would do with that referee?
yes,
You were
yes,
there?
yes. I was doing that match, and I I think you remember the aftermath. They said something about Arturo having gotten on the scales heavy or whatever. But I do remember that when Arturo, because I remember I did 5 of Arturo's fights, and so I kind of knew him
So
very
you
well in terms of his style, whatever. But when he took off his robe, and I looked at him, and I looked at the fighters from down, up, make sure shoes are tied, nothing loose, and I just started study them way up, and then I looked at his size, but and then he looked so much bigger than Gamache. But I don't know what happens at the weigh-ins because in New York we didn't have to be present for that. And it was a non-title match, but he was hitting him with some really really hard shots, and the three-punch combination that Arturo hit him with, I was just waiting for Joey to get close to the ropes so I could jump in to stop the fight because I could see there was just too much. I was unaware of the weight. He was just too strong. And before I could get there, he hit him with a three-punch combination. So yeah, you do feel and hear those punches. I try not to show any expression. I don't. I try to never show expression. I keep my feelings inside. I try to stay cool. It's like the comedian says, don't let them see you sweat. Don't let them see you worry. I try to keep, even when things go wrong, I could yell at a fighter, hey, stop doing that. And as soon as the next second is gone, I let it go. I got to get back into my frame of mind. But that was one of those fights where definitely there was a lot of hard punches, and it's almost like you could feel it yourself. I knew what was coming.
Um, from a referee standpoint, there's been controversy with other referees and things like that. But from your vantage point, um, how do you look at fighters? From the aspect of take Gotti. Gotti has been in fights that you know as well as I do that there's some people that if they took those same punches, the fights probably would have been stopped. Is a fighter's reputation, does that ever play a part on letting the fight go on, or stopping it?
That's a very good question, Rob. As you said before, I'm a student of the game. Okay, and I refereed Caddy 5 times, and I would not have refereed him the same way late in his career as I refereed him earlier, due to the fact that he had a lot of wear and tear. So I would have been a little bit more cautious with him near the end of his career. And again, God rest his soul, because he's no longer with us. But yes, that's a very good point. I would have been very careful with him near the end of his career because he couldn't take those shots anymore. And he had,
Have you just refresh my memory? Have you How many women's bouts have you done?
oh, uh, I'd say at least 20, maybe 25. I've done quite a few.
Now, of those 25, have there been, boxing is a brutal sport regardless. But what I'm saying is, out of those 25, have you had your Eddie Cotton moments? Meaning like, wow, this is a war. Like,
I I'm sorry,
no,
go ahead.
um, like Sparkle Lee. I've worked with her twice for some Katie's fights over in Ireland. And those fights, all Katie's fights over in Ireland is like hellified fights. But I was fortunate enough to work with Sparkle Lee twice, and just as much as we talk about Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis and how that was a rugged fight, women can really, really throw it down as well. But I was just curious as to how many of those hellacious nights have you experienced from a woman's standpoint.
Well, I had both of the Serrano sisters. I've refereed them various occasions, and I had Katie when she won one of the titles in Pennsylvania. She fought this. I can't remember her name. The girl was from Argentina, and she put her. She put it on her. She put it on her. She's very tough, and she gave me one of those big exciting fights where the people were going nuts. And Serrano as well. I had both of the sisters.
Who's on out of the referees, past from the past, because like I said, like you said, you're still a student of the game. So, referees of the past, who's on your Mount Rushmore of referees?
I would say, well, first of all, one who's very underrated because he didn't have a long career was Mr. Hazard. I've always had him. I used to study him and picked up a lot of things from him. Joe Cortez. I mean, we talk about 2 or 3 times a week sometimes, and I'm always bouncing stuff off of him. And um, Rob, I'm losing you. Okay. Joe Cortez is one of them. Mercanti, of course. He was always one of the very top referees. A lot of people don't remember Zach Clayton. He did the Ali Foreman fight, and I've seen a lot of his videos. I studied him as well. As far as I'm concerned, he's one of those underrated top referees that was around back in the day. So Rudy Battle. He's one of the ones that you're in the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame is inducting. I had I had a good opportunity to work with some great referees when I came up. Okay, if I could just drop a few names, I had Rudy Battle, I had Tony Orlando, who's with New Jersey. Um, we had Joe Cortez was still working in New Jersey. Rafael Ramos, who's from Texas, he was in New Jersey. I got a chance to work with him. The late Tony Perez, I got a chance to work with him. The late Al Frank Cappuccino, excuse me. I got a chance to work with him. So I got Randy Newman. Okay, I came up with all of these referees. I was the low man on the totem pole. So I got a chance to experience and learn from a lot of different techniques and styles.
You've always been like a modest guy, but why? How come you never got into a let's get it on a I'm fair but firm? You know, how come you never had your little sayings?
But with all due respect to all the referees that do have their little niches, I like to keep a low profile. I'm one of those referees that when I retire, I don't need that big fight. I came in under the radar, and I have no problem leaving under the radar. There's not very many people that can do what we do. It's a God-given talent, so I I'm very humble about that, and that's just the way I've never thought of having a catchphrase. Seriously.
and the modest guy that you are. I mean, um, um, I always ask that everybody who I ever interview, whatever field of the sport that you're in, whatever part of the sport that you're in, I always ask, from your personal vantage point, from being a referee, what is your criteria for being the best referee that you can be? What's your criteria?
Okay, I once had somebody ask me like, how do you get to be a good referee? And what I tell them is you got to be consistent. Okay, you have to look the part, do your research, pay attention to the safety rules, keep your dignity in place, don't compromise your reputation, keep your mouth shut, listen, and look, and you go far. And I learned that listen, look, and keep your mouth shut from Joe Cortez. Back in 82, I came into the amateurs, 1982. And in 83, I was fortunate enough to have met Joe Cortez. I was doing a PAL show championship. For me, that was like big. I look at ringside and he's sitting at ringside. I'm going, oh boy. So I did my job and I came out the ring. I was going to go because I was with my wife there. He called me over. And one of the things that he told me was, you want to be a good referee? He says, I want to give you some advice. And that's what he gave me advice. Listen, look, and keep your mouth shut. In other words, don't talk about others because you're going to be in that position one day and you don't want that to happen to you. And when you point your fingers, I have to show you this visual. He says, you're pointing fingers at people, but there's three fingers pointing back at you. So be careful what you let out there because it's going to come back to harm you, to hurt you.
Well, and you said, "Oh boy," when you saw him, that gave me the impression that there was a certain bit of just nervousness. Being a referee, being a referee itself, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of nervousness that takes place. How do you combat nervousness before the big show?
Oh, I'm always nervous. You can't see it because I keep it in. Okay. But I'll give you an example. When I did the Canelo Triple G 2, there was a big house. So I just started looking around. The crowd was going nuts before they even introduced the fighters or anything. And just to get it out of my system. But once that bell rang, everything just disappears because I did my work. I was ready. They assigned me because they thought I deserved the match. And I think I proved it. And I don't mean to be uh, braggadocious about it. But I was ready, and when that bell rings, everything just goes away because that's the moment you're waiting for the fight to start. They got the introduction. They want to introduce this one, that one. I had one of the administrators from Vegas ask me, "Aren't you nervous with all these stars?" And I bring sad. I said, as long as they don't come into the ring, I'm cool, because my responsibility is just to fight. It's very simple. If you do your work and you're ready, everything falls into place. But yes, I'm always nervous, but I think it helps me.
Well, just like how Mike Tyson said, um,
Exactly. But
nervousness, you can make it work for you. Um,
yeah,
Give me something, or give us something about Benji Esteves that people don't know, as far as about your journey through boxing. You know, everybody, because there are a lot of people who I've interviewed and get interviewed, and they've been interviewed like over and over again, and so some of the questions may become cliched. Um, what's something that you want people to know about Benji Esteves that people basically really don't know about?
Benji's a family man. When I was in Jersey, living up in Jersey, I've been down in North Carolina a little bit over a year now. But I used to work a pantry every third Saturday of the month. We had a team, our team, and this was a team that went back to when we were working at IBM. So I like to give back to the community. And we used to work a pantry, and we used to give out boxed and canned goods. And I remember a couple of times people would show up late, and we open the door for them. Come on, come in because we're there to serve. And I enjoy detailing cars. Okay,
Mm.
that's one of the things I do on the side. I'm pretty good at it. Not, I would say professional because I get paid for it, but um, I enjoy doing it. I love seeing people's faces when they pick up the car and they say, "Oh my God," that makes me happy. So I'm a people person. I'm a family person, and I wish I could do more for the community here. I just moved down here, so I'm trying to feel my way around. Since there's not too much boxing down here, I'll occupy my time with you know helping out the community.
Well, you still got your referee's hat, and you're still doing that. How much longer for Benji Estevez?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting near the tail end, but I also feel I still have a little bit to offer, and I still can teach, and I would like to stay involved somehow after I do retire. Maybe one of the sanctioning bodies or in any capacity that I can fill. Um, so
I think you'll be a good fit in like post refereeing. Randy Newman, like you said, Eddie Cotton. You know, they became supervisors for the IBF, and they stayed in the sport. It was just I was just curious as to what post life is going to be like for you because I think that you still have a lot to offer the sport because boxing is not only being a referee, being an official, being or what have you. You know, there's so many avenues in boxing, and I think that you can go down any of those streets. And I just hope that you do continue once you hang up your referee's cap.
I
Um,
leave that in God's hands, and anybody's out there who's listening that may need me, I'm available.
and trust me, I'm one of your biggest advocates.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you on Hall of Fame weekend. We all look forward to seeing you uh, walk across that stage, get that plaque, that well-deserved plaque, because, like I said, there are people who definitely deserve it, and you're one of those guys. I'm not only um, a friend of yours, but I'm also a fan of yours. All right, so I just want you to know that, and welcome to the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, and like I said, again and again and again, well deserved.
Thank you so much. I know there's a lot of people involved in the process. I don't know all of the names, but I thank each and every one that gave me the opportunity to get inducted into this great hall. And I wish you continued success. And thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Benji. Appreciate you. Keep doing your thing. Definitely an asset to the sport. Much love to you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
God bless you.